Hey, welcome to the Making of an Exception podcast. Today we've got a special guest. He's the founder and lead singer of Yam Haus, a band called Yam Haus. His name's Lawrence Pruitt. What's up, Lawrence?
What's up? I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yo, thanks for being here. Stoked to just talk about your story and your journey. Tell us about just as we start your band, what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, Yam Haus is a pop band from right here in Minneapolis. We put out an album in June.
Yep.
And we are currently in sort of a transitional space between content 1 and then content 2. And we're playing lots of shows. We're staying busy. We're all full time. And we're just in the beautiful hustle of the music industry.
You're
Loving
all full time with the band, you're saying?
Yeah.
Making it happen.
Yeah, we have actually, including our personal manager, Patrick, who's a dear friend of ours, lives with us. We have 5 human mouths to feed off of Yam Haus.
No way.
Yeah, and,
there's no side hustles.
There's no side hustles. We are aggressively
You guys
full-time.
have made it as a band.
Well, yeah, that's why.
I mean, that's exactly what you dream of.
Yep.
The band funds your life.
If it ends tomorrow, I will say we made it. Like I chose to walk away.
You did make it.
Yeah.
I would say, and this is classic, but it's blowing up. Your band is blowing up, like in a good way.
Thanks, man.
Like, and it's a weird phrase to say, blowing up, but I'm just saying, I feel like locally, like in the Minnesota area, and who knows, like nationally where it goes. But
sure.
I've heard from a ton of people. Lawrence Pruitt, get him on the podcast.
No way.
The band's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
I just thought it was Tissel who hooked me up.
No, Tissel. No,
I have more people to thank.
No, there's a bunch of fans, and I'll give a quick shout out, Millie and Michelle.
Oh, yeah.
They're out in California.
I love them.
A bunch of people are huge fans.
Sure.
And saying, yo, this guy's amazing. Wow. The band's amazing. And so, just stoked to hear your journey.
Thanks,
when did the band start?
The band began formally in August of 2017.
Yep.
Which is when sweet Jake Felstow moved in with us out in Hudson.
Nice.
Because up until that point...
Who's us? You and your wife and children?
No, not
okay.
Not yet. Not yet. That's the next phase of life down the road. No, it was me and my 2 really good high school friends.
Yep.
Zach Beinlich and Seth Bloom.
Yep.
And the 3 of us.
They're also in the band?
They're also in the band.
Yep.
They're also in the band. And we were living together out in Hudson, Wisconsin, which is where we grew up.
Yeah,
and
that's how far away is that from the Hudson?
Hudson's
quite a ways away.
Yeah, I just want to clarify today that Hudson, Wisconsin could be classified a suburb of Minneapolis. I just want to put that out in the world. It's
probably like fighting words for people.
It might be.
We were talking about it right before we started recording.
Yes.
Hudson's not a suburb of Minneapolis.
Yeah, people say that to me.
But
and
let's talk about it.
I get feisty.
Real quick.
Yeah.
If you're a local person listening and you know the suburbs, how many minutes does it take you to get downtown Minneapolis?
Well, first of all, you just need to look at a map, okay, and realize that if you live in Minneapolis, you are way closer to Wisconsin than you realize. So somebody is in Minneapolis doing their thing, and they hear that we're from Hudson, Wisconsin, like, you're in a different state. I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
So
I would never travel to Hudson. No,
yeah, exactly.
I would.
Well, that's a big right. Exactly. So I just go, okay. I think we were talking before the podcast.
Yeah.
We're trying to find like a similar distance with Minnesota suburb.
Well, how many minutes does it take to get downtown?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Yeah.
30 minutes.
So the suburb that we're sitting in right now, Apple Valley, is longer than 30 minutes to get downtown.
Is it really longer?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to like put Hudson on the map.
But here's another question: how many people live in Hudson?
I think the town population. It's confusing because it gets
like
kind
300
of
400, 3 or 4,000, 30,000.
Wow, it's not that small.
Because wouldn't there be a rating on? I don't know why we're talking about
like
this.
size
This
to
amazing.
even be considered.
This is a great way to start the podcast.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, the size would matter.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that the like formal town area is close to 20,000. I could be wrong. Like I haven't looked at this.
I feel like 20,000 is probably the line. Like if it's below that, then
it might be below that.
Okay,
but it's around there.
It's a small town.
But if you look at the school district, which again, so even more for me personally, I'm a kid from out in the sticks of Hudson.
Why are you so passionate about this?
I don't know. I want to put Hudson on the map. I guess I think that's my agenda. That's like my. If you look behind what Yam Haus is trying to do, it's really just trying to put Hudson on the map.
You want to do for Hudson what Bon Iver did for Eau Claire.
That's right. Exactly. And if we do a festival, I don't know if you know about the Eau Claire Festival.
Yes.
But there was a big kind of issue with this last one because he didn't announce the lineup.
Yeah.
I just want to say, if I ever do a festival, I will always announce the lineup. and you will always know who you're paying for before you get there. Because I showed up and I wasn't that happy with it. I still love you, Justin. I still love Eau Claire.
Yeah.
But he didn't announce the lineup.
He didn't announce what bands are going to be at the festival?
No.
Really?
And it was like this creative thing, like trust me kind of thing. And I'm like, man, this is really cool. Like, this is probably going to blow our mind. And I get there and I've only heard of like 3 of the artists.
And then you're like, that's why he didn't announce the lineup.
And even if he had, so what's funny is music, when you're not familiar with it, you don't like it as much right away. That's actually a human thing. Like, there are very few songs that on first listen, when you find those songs, you know, like, man, this is something
but
special.
if you know who the artist is,
but if you
and
know
like some of their stuff,
then you can take the time to get ready. You show up and you got some of their songs in your head, so you enjoy the concert more. Yeah. So anyways, I won't do that if I ever go the Justin Vernon route.
Hey, real quick, you do want to start a festival eventually in Hudson?
I don't know if I want to start a festival. I want to give back to that community. Yeah. And we're already actually, that's a perfect segue. We're doing a Christmas show for the first time at the local theater called the Phipps Center for the Arts. Nice. And it's so awesome. It's going super well. It's sold out in like 25 hours. We're adding another show. It's just like so much like small town excitement, which is, I love that. And what we're doing is we've talked to a lot of small businesses in town to raise as much money as we can for what's called the Hudson Backpack Program, which is an awesome school-based program that just puts backpacks with food in the hands of like low-income students right in our hometown that we don't realize are right here. Yeah. Like in our town, there are students who literally come to school hungry and go home hungry. Yeah. And like, that's crazy. And so that was like one of the things at the end of the summer as a band that we kind of like went through the honeymoon phase of like starting our band. Yeah. And it was like, okay, what do we want to do now? And one of the big things that we wanted to do for next year and coming up is giving back. And this is sort of the first function of giving back that we're stepping out into.
It's an amazing next step to go from what we're giving people is our music, and it's good, and it's an art, it's a service, if you will, like it's benefiting people's lives if they enjoy it and they love music and all that. But to take another step and go, okay, our music is not enough, especially when there's hungry kids and we can make a difference. So, that's crazy. You also have another, I don't know if it's a Christmas show or New Year's show, but at First Ave, is that right?
Yes.
So it's what, the fastest growing bands or best new bands of 2018?
It's best new bands of 2018.
According to who?
Best new bands, according to the First Avenue.
And that's team. Epic.
Thanks, man.
That's epic.
We're very excited.
Best new bands of 2018.
We're
And is it sold out?
It's not sold out. Okay. Which is probably a good reminder. Hey, we better get on that. We better start promoting that thing soon.
Let's do this. When is it?
Let's go. It's January 4th, and it's 3 days after
kind
New
of like
Year.
a New Year's show.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
What are the other new bands?
I can't by memory list all of them. I know there's a band called Static Panic that we've been hearing about that is apparently really good, which seems like they're good. I've listened to some of their music. I really do like it. I'm trying to think who else. Annie Mac, who is a singer, and she was also on another thing we were on. City Pages did bands to look out for this summer, before the summer. And she was on that list with us too. But honestly, it's an opportunity for us to get more familiar. There's a band called the Gully Boys. I'm really excited to check out.
Crazy. Just because of the name.
Yeah, just because of the name. I'm pretty sure it's 3 women doing their thing called the Gully Boys. Yeah, I'm really excited to meet the Gully Boys. Yeah. I'm going to be fangirling the whole time.
The Gully Boys girls. That's it.
The Gully Boys girls.
Yeah. Nice.
So I'm excited to familiarize myself with those people, get to know them.
Yeah, well, I think just what an accomplishment to be,
Thank you.
The Minneapolis and just Twin Cities, which includes Hudson.
Yeah, that's right. And Hudson included in that.
The music scene to be that and have radio play. We can talk about that too. Yeah. But and just how you guys have been scaling. It seems like right now you're at this tipping point, and it can kind of go one or two ways of man, it was great and this is as far as it goes, or this tipping point of this next level of national,
absolutely,
and even global influence, and I'm sure there's fans everywhere, but do you feel that way too?
In fact, it's
just waiting for this.
It's a weird
call
time.
Or this.
It's a weird time to be Yam Haus, I will admit, just because, we don't really know the hype. One of the best words of advice, and it's classic. I don't know if you've seen that Christian Tingle joke video. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Tingle?
So they make
it's
these two comedians.
Christian Mingle.
I know, it's these two comedians do a spoof on that. And it's funny because the couples are like, name your favorite secular band. And they look at each other and they go, Switchfoot together. It's so
Nice.
funny. Anyway, so Switchfoot is one of my favorite bands growing up before I was even a Christian, which
John
is a
Foreman.
cool fact. Yeah. And one of the things they said is like, don't believe the hype.
Yeah.
Early on in their career, that was something that they had to like really ingrain into their values, into what they do. And I can feel that right now.
Yeah. You can
Like,
feel there's a lot of hype building. But intentionally you're not trying to like soak it in.
Well, the funny thing is when you follow the hype, you actually end up getting so discouraged.
Yeah.
Strangely.
But why?
Because it's never enough.
Yeah.
Like there's never enough hype.
Yeah.
You know, like I want more.
Yeah.
Minneapolis isn't enough. We need to, you know, and so I can feel myself personally. I can't speak for the guys, but I mean, it kind of can. We're all in this place a little bit of like, what's next? And we need to remember who we are, what we're doing, and we are doing that. But you can just feel that tension right now.
I feel like you don't start a band though, and again, I could be wrong. I feel like you don't start a band for a little bit of this desire for the hype, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you go from launching a band and wanting, I mean, you don't start a band and go, man, I hope nobody listens to this. You go,
right. I
like,
want to
I'm
be
gonna
heard
start a
by as
band
many
and I
people in the
want
world.
everybody to know because there's a mission to what
Yes.
you're doing, and I want to talk about that too. But you start a band hoping for some hype. How do you break that cycle of the hype's never enough?
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I think we were very, very, very intentional. There's John Mayer, ironically enough, had an awesome sort of dissertation speech about trying to make it music.
John Mayer's he's a Christian artist.
He is not a Christian artist.
Okay.
But he said something that I thought was actually quite valuable about this whole pursuit of music. And he said right off the gates, there's too many people not being honest about what they want and what they're doing.
Yeah,
in
totally.
music. It's all over the map.
Not just music, that's life.
That's life. I mean, seriously.
All day.
So like there's so many musicians just waiting for like the big record label deal. I'm going to be on everything. Like I'm trying to, that's my goal. But then if you look at what they're doing and what they're writing and what they're actually like, how they're spending their time, they're not really going for that because that is a very challenging thing to try to do. And it's weird to navigate through. But even within your music, like, are you writing songs for that? Or are you writing songs for just you, which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it's wrong to, you know, want to write songs that are just appealing to you, but you just need to be honest about what your goals are. And that was something that we as a band right away established. If we say we want to be heard by as many people as possible, let's operate that way.
Is that what you're saying?
That is what we're saying. Right away, Zach is my close friend in the band, bass player. We were living together at the time, and we looked at each other after we watched that, and we were kind of like eyeing each other up, like where do you land? Like it's sort of a vulnerable thing to admit, because it almost feels like ego or pride to be like, man, I really feel like that's what we should do, and we both looked at each other and we're like, we want to do the big thing.
Yeah,
we want to do it.
Yeah,
and even if that means we're not going to, I mean, the chance of that succeeding is so low, but it was so healthy for us to look at each other and be like, that's what we want. And so now the decisions that we make, we'll make based on that. Yeah. But again, that's has to be in line with who we are as people, what our values are, and then why would we, like, it's one thing to build a platform, it's another thing to use a platform. Yeah. You know? Yep. And I think that's something, it's really easy to talk about, but the truth is there's a lot of people with not very big platforms who are so excited to tell you about how they're using their platform, which is awesome. Yeah. But like we're in build mode and we're going to use it for sure. But like that kind of fits into the stealth thing. Like we really want to just work and grow. Yeah. So be who we are in that.
Since you brought it up, one of the things before we started recording again was you saying we have this like stealth mission, you know, which stealth meaning like, it's kind of like an undercover thing. And at some point, and do you know which point that is or what big break that is, that it becomes like now we're going to unleash kind of who we are, what we're doing, and how, like, basically from what you're saying, now we transition from building our platform to now using the big platform that we built.
But I think we can still, it's funny because I say that, but at the same time, like we're like whatever platform we have now, we still want to use it, and we're just
you're doing the backpacks thing,
doing that thing,
like,
and I actually, that gives me life because I think God's teaching me a lot right now. That like just be who you are all the time. Yep. And don't worry about, you know, there's so much to worry about. There's so much to try to strategize and figure out. The idea with the stealth mission thing is that we're not a Christian band. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things if you're a believer listening to this podcast.
We just need to actually end this episode. We're just going to end the episode because I didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't know. Yep.
I thought this was a
sorry guys.
Thing.
Is this a? Oh, okay. No, it's
I'm
so
kidding.
Good. It's so good.
No, it's amazing. So talk about this. Obviously, you grew up and faith-filled, and we'll talk about your upbringing and life in church, and you've been in ministry, like traditional, like vocational ministry. Now you're doing band full-time. The call to say, hey, there's Christian bands out there that's on Christian radio, and it's the purpose to glorify God. But saying that's not us. We're Christians that are in a band, and the goal is still to glorify God.
Absolutely.
But it's not a Christian band.
It's sort of like, imagine you got like a surgeon, right?
Yep.
And like he went to school to be a surgeon, and he's opened up his practice, and he wants to, with as many people, get that business growing and be a part of that. And he's also a believer, and he also knows that, he's called to make disciples of all nations. He's called to live out the Great Commission, to do the whole thing. He's saved by grace. Jesus is Lord over his life. He's obedient. But like, he just wants to go out and make a difference in the world. Yeah. And so like, I feel similar, like he's not going to start a Christian surgeon business. But he's going to start a surgeon business, and he's an amazing man. Did you know? Like I would rather it go that. I feel like that's, and again, it's not an accusatory, like there's one right way to do it or one wrong way. Cause I think it's really cool what is happening in the Christian music industry. I think it's growing. I think it's a phenomenon really that we could just talk about this whole time. Like it's crazy what's happening. Like it's grown so much, and so many people have come to know Christ through the work of Christian music people, which is amazing. And I am a music person who's also a Christian, but I for whatever reason, through prayer, through my process of relating to God, which is, all of our process of like, just like, what do you want me to do, God? I want to be obedient. What's your calling in my life? And time again, I feel like God has told me to go out to the dark places. And that was something I wrestled with a lot, because I don't even want, like, I'm really not interested in like, I'm jaded with the concept of like, man, just like, make my dreams come true, God. Like, I just want to be a big star. Like I really, but I want to make a difference, and I want to be obedient, and I want to use the gifts, whatever he's given me, to bring more people to that place where they're considering faith. But I think the way that I feel like God's put in my heart is ways that I actually, from personal experience, have experienced. So I didn't know, I'll give you a story, an example of what I'm trying to do a little bit. And it's funny because now Switchfoot's like cats out of the bag. They're a huge Christian band, really. I mean, anybody who doesn't say that is like, okay, within the booking industry, even people who aren't Christians think of Switchfoot as a Christian band. Which I think those are the best people to judge whether you're a Christian band or not, is the people who are just like normal people. So, but anyways, Switchfoot was a band that I really liked and fell in love with before I knew the Lord at all. I didn't grow up in a family that went to church or anything. And I loved it. I loved the music, and I actually had a chip on my shoulder against kids who went to church, were in that club. I was in that club. Kind of bothered me. I was sort of, had this beef with the church. But I'm listening to this band that I like, and it was actually from the movie A Walk to Remember that my sister fell in love with. But there were some songs on there by Switchfoot that I found out I really liked.
Like Dare You to Move.
Dare You to Move. There's a song called You. There's always something in the way. Anyways, it's like all their early stuff. And I remember just being like, man, I really like this band. And then I found out that they're Christians. And in a weird, it wrecked me, because I like the hard heart I had. I immediately, if I knew you were a Christian, I kind of had a beef with you. Like I was kind of like, man, like
it destroyed your
problem.
Whole worldview. About that.
I'm like, oh my gosh, there's believers out there who, and again, obviously there's believers out there that are amazing. And we all have our things that we walk through, and nobody's perfect. The church isn't perfect. But as a kid, I was like, man, the church is full of mean people. And so for the first time, that was my first taste of no, it's not. And that was really powerful for me. So I would love to be that if God gives me that. But really, if God calls me to that, to be that for somebody else.
I think it's cool to see the way you're building your band and living your life in general is living based on the convictions that God's put on your heart. I think there's different pressures in how to live, but I view it in a way through the lens of the church. Since I'm a pastor, different churches have different giftings and reach, natural reaches. And so the classic example is everybody hates on Joel Osteen because he preaches this positive, grace-filled message, and that's all he does. But he does that based on a conviction in his heart about whether you agree with him or not. It's he's doing it because he feels like the Lord has called him to do that. There's other churches like River Valley, what we're a part of is we won't apologize about being global missions focused with specifically to unreached people groups around the world. And there's people that would say, well,
you guys are killing it.
You're not, where's your local arm? What are you doing here?
Yep.
What are you doing across the street?
Classic.
Like, and so but there's a reach and a calling and a conviction that God's put on Pastor Rob's heart.
Yep.
And he can't apologize for that, you know. And for you, to the surgeon example, I mean, you wouldn't hate on a surgeon that was like, I'm going to be a Christian like it's going to be a Christian practice, and we're going to pray for all of our patients, and we're going to do like everybody in the church. Actually.
Like if
everybody in our church is getting, you know, whatever. Like that's. And so to the Christian artist, you're not hating on the Christian artist that's saying, hey, I just am called to write worship songs and to be on Christian radio and to lift up Jesus that way. But also vice versa. Let's not hate on the Christian who says, I'm just going to have a band and I'm going to write songs that come out of my heart. And it's not necessarily worship, but it's art. And this art, the places it can go, that a worship song that, you know, I'm doing quotes if you're not watching on YouTube. Like if I'm not writing a worship song, it could potentially go places that the worship song will never go.
Right.
And then through that, people, just your story about Switchfoot is amazing, because then you found out, my goodness, these guys love the Lord.
Softened my heart, man.
Yeah, it's an amazing.
It literally did. It made me go, okay, I'll give this a chance.
And I wonder how many thousands of people have. I heard this story the other day. It was from a missionary who's serving in India, and a kid came like out of nowhere to they run a CrossFit gym, like a really creative way to reach people out, like in the mountains, Himalayan mountains of India.
Cool.
And he goes, this kid came up and asked us, are you guys Christians? And he's never in the decades of being there, he's never had somebody out of the blue, without having some prior context to who they were, ask them, are you guys Christians? Because it's totally unreached where they're at. And he goes, yes, we are. Why in the world would you ask that? And he said, because I'm a huge Justin Bieber fan. And Justin Bieber posted about that Jesus had made a difference in his life. And one of the pastors in his life, Carl Lentz, and he said, I started watching sermons of Carl Lentz on YouTube. And
so cool.
I gave my life to Jesus.
So cool.
I'm following Jesus. In the Himalayan mountains of India, you know. But if Justin Bieber would have started and said, hey, I'm going to be a Christian artist, you know, again, would have he had that same reach, you know, and all that. And again, it's not knocking a Christian artist. It's just people have, every person listening, you have a unique reach and a unique call. And you have to identify that and not apologize for that.
Yes.
And you'll have all these pressures to be somebody else. As you gain success, no doubt will you have pressures like, are the songs that you're writing, is it, you know, well, you know, you might have, whether it's an older generation or whoever, your parents, I don't know like what it's like, but like, well, you need to be in every interview, you need to say something about Jesus, or every acceptance speech you have to say, you know, and those are pressures, but you got to do, I'm talking a lot, but it seems like that's how you're living.
Yeah, absolutely.
Living on conviction, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, and you touched on it. Everybody's got a call. Everybody's got to reach. And I think as we mature, as we're sanctified by God, as we grow in our relationship to him, as we get more and more dependent on him, we get less like accusatory. And we get more like encouraging, and we get more like celebratory of what the body's doing and how diverse the body actually is. You know, and I think Capital C Church is really a growing, amazing thing. And in 2019, I can't wait to see how it continues to grow and flourish and change and progress. And that's a powerful thing. And I feel like I'm a part of that, but I feel like, again, like I'm a stealth mission going out. And we want to partner with the church. And that was one of the things early on that sort of forced this conversation is, in partnering with the church, how do we learn to like really explain our calling in a way that doesn't feel like accusatory or aggressive towards the church, but it feels like, you know, real and something that they can get behind too. And so that was like, we one of the statements that we've decided we feel really comfortable saying is Yam Haus does not lead worship. So like if an awesome church wants to reach out to us, which happens, and we love that. Like we want, I mean, if there's something that we can be Yam Haus in what you're doing, let's do it. But here's what Yam Haus is, and here's what Yam Haus isn't. And so like, if you want us to play a couple of songs, we're not going to like throw in a worship song at the end, for example.
Totally.
And that at first we're like, that's so mean to say. Like, why would we not do that?
Yeah.
But really, we're
Do you
protecting our
hate
brand.
God? Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you insane?
Yeah. So Yam Haus is not a worship band.
Yeah.
Which was a healthy thing for us to like, the four of us looked at each other and like, we really were wrestling this because we didn't want to like come across like jerks, Like,
Yep.
we think we're rock stars. We're not going to do worship songs. We're too cool for that. But no, it's like, that's not what Yam Haus is for. I'll lead worship. I do lead worship.
Yeah.
Seth leads worship. Jake leads worship. Zach leads worship.
Yeah.
All in their instruments. But Yam Haus as a vehicle doesn't do that.
Yeah. Amazing. And so talk about that. You guys are all leading worship at different churches. You all go to the same church. Where you're at now, and then we'll reverse it, but where you're at now, what does it look like outside of Yam Haus when it comes to music?
Yeah. Seth and I, our guitar player and myself, both attend and are a part of a church called Shepherd of the Valley.
Yep.
So what's cool is when I left, I actually recommended Seth's wife to take my place.
Yeah.
And luckily this church leadership gave her a chance and did it. And
amazing.
so now she's doing it, which is awesome because that really kept a lot of relational roots and ties to Shepherd that I was really grateful for.
Yeah.
Because then if she needs help or if she wants something, like I can be there. And it was cool. It worked out really nice.
So you guys are serving on that team
When we're in town,
when you're available.
And obviously like we, aren't there all the time.
Yeah.
And it's been different ever since I went full-time Yam Haus. But still, like if I'm in town, I actually really love just going to church, by the way. I really do love that. And the team has grown enough to where I'm not needed, especially now.
Yep.
But it's been really cool to sort of transition that, which has been cool. And then Seth is her husband. So obviously he's around a lot playing guitar there.
Yeah.
And we're a part of a small group based out of there. We're getting married. I'm getting married there.
Yeah. You're engaged.
I'm engaged.
Shout out
To Kayla Johnson, soon to be Pruitt in February.
Wow.
Really excited about that.
You're not going to take Johnson? She's...
we prayed about it. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, great.
No, she's
pumped to take Pruitt.
She's pumped to take Pruitt. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
No, congrats, man.
Thank you.
Marriage is the best.
I'm excited. I'm really excited.
So stoked for you.
Thanks, man.
And tell me about the journey of your upbringing in faith.
Sure.
And then how you got at some point a call into ministry, and then this call, like, were you unsatisfied in ministry and like, I'm going to start this band and I'm going to quit the church? Obviously that's not true, but
no.
What's the journey like for you growing up?
Born in Minneapolis, not a Christian home.
Do you mean actually Minneapolis?
That time I do. So right away we lived in Minneapolis. My mom's from Minneapolis. My dad's from Atlanta. They met in creative land. My dad was the lead in a play called Snow Leopard at the Orpheum. Yeah. My mom was running sound. And
no way.
And in 2 weeks, they left who they were with for each other, hot and heavy, got married, started a family. Goodness. I know, it's like the classic, like creative, hot mess.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so they got married. And then I grew up in Hudson, long story short. And so I have an older sister named Ella.
Yep.
Shout out Ella, love you. She's amazing. Didn't grow up in like a Christian home. Growing up, especially for me as a kid, I consider myself an atheist.
Yeah.
And I was very convicted about that. And what's funny is I think my mom
convicted in a good way, saying, I'm an atheist, and I know it.
And I shout out to all the atheists. If there's any atheists listening to this, I don't know if there is. There might be. You never know. I hope there are.
Yeah.
Because I think honesty is the best conduit to a relationship with God. I think, we kid ourselves too much. I think it's really healthy to be like, man, I'm having a hard time with this. Because I think you're one step closer to finding it, which is cool for me growing up. But anyways, grew up in Hudson, graduated from Hudson High School. My relationship with the church was interesting because my mom grew up in a Catholic home. Yep. And right around like the age of 10 or 12, my mom got I feel like she got like some Catholic pangs of guilt. Yeah. And just sent me and my sister to like this like crash course 2-week. We got our first communion, we got baptized, and we got confirmed in this like specific, there was like us and like a couple other homeschooled kids. Yep. And it was like this, I'll never forget, her name is Sister Bernadette. She was amazing. And I remember being a kid and being like, I can kind of jive with this. I'm not sure if I'm there, but I'm kind of like interested. Yeah. And then it ended and it was like, move on, And by the time I was 17.
That was church for you up until the age of 17.
It was just that weird experience. Yeah. And then everyone's, that's all I had. Like
nothing outside of that.
Nothing outside of that. That was the first, it was weird too. Like you walk into it was a St. Pat's Catholic school.
Yeah.
And they're a big Catholic church in our hometown. They're awesome. And walked into the school and started learning stuff. And yeah, it didn't really make sense, but it was interesting. It was an interesting time.
So
like a seed was planted.
How did this happen? That you're living for Jesus? It's crazy.
Yeah, I was 17, and I was playing hockey on the hockey team. I was an athlete. I was trying to be a cool, popular guy. I was drinking. I was doing what high schoolers do to be accepted and loved and feel like they're a part of, high school.
Community,
Yeah. And it was sort of I was going through a lot at home, starting to kind of question my parents and be sort of resentful of them.
Yeah.
And some of the choices that, they were making to raise me, and money was kind of tight, and I was just in like a really resentful, bitter, dead time. Yeah. And I kind of broke.
You're 17?
I broke down, yeah. I was 17. I got in a fight with my parents, and my dad was like, you got to get out of here for a while. Like, just get out of here. And so I had like a Ford Ranger truck. Granted, they probably would have let me come back, but I wanted to leave. I was like, I'm going to get out of here. See ya. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. Just like rebel without a clue. And I talked to a counselor at school that day. And I said, hey, here's what's going on. And like, this is hard for me because up until that point, I was kind of this like proud, cocky jock guy. Yeah. And I really broke down hard. Yeah. And she was like, okay, well, first of all, you can stay with me, because she had a son in my grade. But I'm going to see what we can do. I mean, we'll get involved. I mean, you have a place to stay until this gets settled or whatever.
What a legend counselor.
Yeah, she's awesome. And then what's even crazier is another counselor who was part-time at that time happened to be there on an off day and happened to get wind of this from that counselor. Yeah. And just felt really compelled to like offer up her home. And I met with them after school that day, and her name was Lynette Beinlich, and she had a son in my grade. She had an older son that I played hockey with when I was a sophomore, and he was a senior, and now he was graduated, and then she had an older son. I knew their family, but not like crazy well. And she said, yeah, you have a spot at our place. We have an extra room. Come on over. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. Like, thank you.
You're sort of humbling. In high school?
Yeah, senior in high school. Or no, I'm a junior in high school, sorry. 17 years old, junior in high school, just turned 17. And this was in January. I was in the middle of hockey. It was just like a weird time. So I moved in with them, but right away that day when she offered me the place, she said, by the way, this weekend there's we're going to be gone. We're at this retreat. It's called Teens Encounter Christ Tech. And I kind of rolled my eyes like, okay, here's the pitch. Here we go. I'm like ready for the like this is going to be an opportunity now for you to like come to faith. And I was kind of like, all right. But I was like, hey, if you're going to offer me your home, I'll go to anything you want me to go to. Sure. Totally. What are we doing this weekend? Great. Sounds good. So I went, and I think it was the Friday night, got there, and now my really dear friend, mentor, Dave Kell, preached the gospel that night. And it just rocked me. I remember I was sitting in the back of a church in downtown Hudson, and I felt, I describe it often as feeling, I almost felt like this like assuring touch almost on my shoulder. It was weird. I don't want to be weird mystic guy. I try to keep that guy under wraps, but I feel pretty safe here. I really did. I felt like for the first time, it was like, it's going to be okay. Yeah. Like, I got you. It was like an unbelievable encounter. Yeah. And so that is what began my journey. That was when I gave my life to Jesus. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep. And then from there, it's just been a journey.
What was it like processing? I mean, processing essentially because of your own behavior and what was happening in your home. Yeah. You're essentially kicked out of the house as a junior in high school. Yeah. And you're fending for yourself.
Briefly, but yes.
Yeah, briefly.
Yeah.
But there's, I mean, especially I remember being that age. Yeah. Like the emotion of that or rejection or frustration or anger or processing that and then following it up with this God encounter moment. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it and even talk about it now, how does it affect your life? Like, is it painful to think through? Is it like, man, it was a miracle moment that God showed up right then?
Yeah, it's powerful. It makes sense. I feel like that version or that who I was then is I feel like who all of us are without Christ. I mean, I really feel that way. Yeah. I think we're desperate, we're searching, and we constantly are throwing things in the hole in our heart, Yep. And even within even once you you give your life to Christ, that doesn't end.
Yeah.
Like you really do have to work to stay dependent on who God is and what that means for you, and just to sustain on Him alone.
Yeah.
You know, and in that moment, I could do that. It was so cool, you know. But then you start to walk and you start to go out in the world, and He starts to grow you and mature you.
Yeah.
But I look back on that time, and it excites me.
Yeah.
It reminds me who I am.
Yeah.
So I'm not like bitter about it. It was hard with my parents because I think I dishonored them in a way that I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
And I shamed them in a way that I really am not proud of, especially at that time.
Yep.
Just because, again, they were trying to figure it out too.
Yep.
And they still, you know, in many ways are, just like I am. But what's cool is I kind of hurt them with that. But then we've really, I have a great relationship with my family now.
Yeah.
And they saw a change in me, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah. So there's been redemption there.
Absolutely.
And recovery to that relationship.
Yep.
That's insane, dude.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Part of this story I'm finding out right now on a microphone, and I just love it. Like, the fact that you walked through that, and that's when God showed up like in a powerful way.
Yeah.
And I think about too, like, I mean, you already shouted them out, so hopefully their ears are still listening. But the atheists that are listening, you know, to say you believe that everybody, which I agree with, the Bible says that God put eternity in the hearts of man. So.
We're looking for something.
It means that so I believe the Bible. If somebody listening may not believe that, but I would also believe that there is this feeling of I wasn't made for here, because God put eternity in our hearts.
Absolutely.
And so the desperation that you talk about, you already said it. Everybody on the planet is in this desperation mode. Yeah. Even the atheists that are set in their ways, like I am convicted about the fact that I don't believe that there's something bigger. Yeah. Yet you would say they're still desperate, you know. And I don't know if you can speak, since you were that person. I don't know if you could speak to somebody listening now. Like, do you feel like you would look back and say, I was desperate, you know, even though I was atheist, I was a convicted atheist. I believed that there was nothing, but I was desperate. What was it like?
Well, and I think there's a poison in being set in certain things. Like, I think growth and progress is a really healthy thing. And I think within our faith, within the life that Jesus has made for us, there's so much potential for growth and progress. And I really love that. And so I would encourage an atheist to consider that you being set in your way is similar to the people you're pointing the finger at, saying that they're set in their way, which there are people like that in the church that we should say, hey, let's get out. Let's grow, let's love, let's progress in a way that again, and I think you can live out your convictions, but also hold it with an open hand. Yep. And I think that's when something bigger than you and me steps in. Yeah. And does something that doesn't make sense. Yeah. And you almost laugh about it, talking about it. Like, I literally, every time I talk about that, I remember feeling this warm sensation on my shoulder. Is that scientifically real or provable? I don't know. Yeah. But the truth is, I don't care. Yeah. Because it was real for me, and it changed my life. Yeah. And that's something that I finally, because I saw my life kind of crumbling, I finally went like this.
Amazing.
You know, with what I had or didn't have. Yeah. And I think that is where, like, true relationship, true trust, true childlike trusting faith in God is fostered. Yeah, open-handed. Open-handed. And that's what's crazy. Like, you can be 80 years old, I mean, you can be Billy Graham, and you're still doing this with God. Yeah. That's an amazing thing. Like, that's what I strive to want to do. Yeah. Is to never lose that. I think, like, that is the utmost truth of full dependence on Christ, full dependence on who He says I am. And as I do that, it allows me to love people better.
I think it's brilliant. I have a 3-month-old daughter, almost 4 months old. Wow. As we record this, and when babies are born, I was reminded again, it's our second daughter. As babies are born, they're born with this involuntary grasping. It's probably not a syndrome, but it's like if you touch their hand, they automatically grab. Cool. Which is it's crazy. They're getting used to gravity. They're getting used to this world. Yeah. And so essentially they've got control issues with their body because it's involuntary. And it's crazy that as humans we're born with that. Yeah. But I believe it's a picture of what we spend the rest of our lives doing. Exactly what you just said. The rest of our lives is us working on these control issues that we have of grasping for more, desperation, striving, holding on to my thing, my dream, my, and the journey with God is this process of learning to open our hands, and God rarely does he rip our hands open and rip it out, but it's this trust, growing in trust and growing. And so looking at my daughter the other day, I was thinking about that. Like eventually she will not have that. She'll outgrow that. And as a 29-year-old now, hopefully I'm on that journey in a good way where I'm outgrowing my control issues in this life. So anyways, that's what I think about. Cool. And it's a great way to live, open-handed.
It's a great way to live.
It's amazing. And I think too, people are spiritual, even though there's people that would say they're not. I think
everything's spiritual.
There's been something that's happened to somebody that they can't explain. There's been something that's happened to everybody that they can't explain, but it's happened to them, and they just know it's true, and they don't have to explain it. You know, so even the no matter what you believe, like there's things that happen to you that you just can't explain. And I'm a firm believer in this too, that if God is who He says He is, or if He's who we say He is, then He's powerful enough to prove Himself to people.
Absolutely.
And so as a pastor, I never feel this pressure to
like I gotta
prove God to somebody.
Come on.
Or to, try to talk somebody into who God is.
That's not how it works.
I genuinely believe that if you're listening to this podcast, literally, if you just whispered up in your heart, God, prove it. Like prove it. He can do that.
Yeah.
And He cares about proving Himself to people more than I care about proving who He is to people, because He created people. And so I just think He's powerful enough. And so that's even an encouragement to anybody listening. Just breathe that up, prove it. He can do it. And I believe He will.
Yeah. And I think the brokenness piece is important too.
Yeah.
I think when I was an atheist, I did a lot of that kind of stuff. And I was like, no, I mean it, prove it, come on. And the truth is, you can't fake your heart to God.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot. The pride piece is such an important piece. You look at scripture, you look at the beginning to the end of what sort of we see there in that story, in that progression. It's literally human pride versus human obedience to God and whom He says we are. I think obedience, I read early on in growing up in my faith. So after I got saved, I went to college briefly.
Yep.
I realized I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was spending money that I didn't have to do it. So I did what's called the AmeriCorps. I spent a year away from everybody I knew, serving in various capacities with a bunch of different people from a bunch of different backgrounds, and it was like the best year of my life. So great.
Where did you serve?
We were based in Denver, but I was all over what's called the Southwest region, which is all the way from Arkansas to Arizona. And so I did projects, 5 to 8 week projects in like 5 different places, and it was a life changer. Like it was so cool. I learned so much. I saw the framework of this country. We live here and we're formed here, wherever your background is. I mean, all this Midwestern white kids. I think we have this worldview, even about like our country, that isn't really true. Like there is crazy things in our country that I just don't think we realize. It's right here in our neighborhood.
Well, it's like the kids that are going hungry.
Yes.
In our neighborhoods, you would never think that. But
which again it was just cool to see that, and I grew a lot from that. And then I came back from that kind of like, okay, what now? And I felt like one of the things I needed was a framework, and I feel like it's so, rather than just taking the truth and running with it, because like now I know it's about me, I realized that I really want to be able to say like, I know when God calls me to something. How do I know that? And it was bothering me because I was getting invited to go on mission trips. I was getting involved at my church. And up until that point, I really hadn't been a part of a church before. I was just a little baby believer running around excited with this awesome grace that I was just
pumped about.
And it's amazing to this day. But I was getting involved in church, and I was like, okay, I need a framework. Like, how do I operate? And so there is a kind of a textbook, and it's called Experiencing God, Blackaby. And it changed my life. Like if you're a new believer listening to this, like that was the quintessential. It gave me like 6 ways that God speaks to us. Like, I don't have them fully memorized, but it's like prayer, circumstance,
Yep.
Scripture. If all these things line up, the people that you talk to,
Yep.
if all these things line up, you can pretty much with confidence say,
Yep.
God wants me to do this. And so it gave me this framework to start going, okay, if I have all these dreams, if I'm this young, we all want to, figure out our career when we're in our 20s. We're trying to like figure out what to do with our lives. Like that gave me a real sense of like, here's what you can put that through to really feel confident. And God led me to work at this church for 3 years, and it was amazing, and I loved it.
I was going to ask, is that the framework you used to confirm, like, I feel this call in the ministry and start leading worship?
Absolutely. And I still feel a call in the ministry. I still feel like I'm doing ministry. I think everybody in some degree should feel that way.
But
But formal ministry is different.
I agree with you. It's a good clarifier that everybody's called to ministry. Everybody's got the Great Commission. Let's reach the world. Let's reach the planet, no matter who pays you. But a vocational call, like, hey, I'm going to step in and work at a church.
It's different.
And so what were you doing when you stepped into like working at a church?
I was finishing my generals at Century College, living with my parents in a church down the road. A guy named Jonathan Maley.
I went to school with him.
Yep, amazing guy.
I love him.
Amazing guy, love him too.
From Iowa.
Hero of mine, Iowa.
I think he came up with a cowboy hat and like boot cut jeans and some cowboy boots. I'm not kidding. Yeah, it's not a lie. And then he left school the hippest dude on planet Earth.
I know, and he still is to this day.
Yeah,
amazing. It's amazing. So I met him. Remember that retreat I told you about? Yeah. Once I got like saved, I also could play music growing up, and that was sort of something that I was into. Both my parents are very musical. Yep. So they started asking me, hey, would you help lead this or do this? Would you play this song here? Days of Elijah, let's go. Stuff. And it was really campy, retreat, weekendy worship, and it was awesome. Yeah. Then I met Jonathan Maley on one of those weekends. Yep. And he saw me and he said, hey man, I'm working at this church and we could use worship leaders. Like, would you ever consider coming out? And I was like, sure. And then I went and did AmeriCorps. What's crazy is Shepherd actually flew me. I was living in Arkansas at the time on a project because they were trying to hire a worship leader. Yep. And Maley was so aggressively like putting my name in the hat. Yeah. This unqualified, what is this kid? What, he's in AmeriCorps? Who is this guy? No college degree. They flew me out to like lead on a weekend to like see if that'd be a good fit. Yeah. And when I came back from AmeriCorps, I had a job with them that was part-time. Wow. I was helping with kids ministry. Yeah. I was learning dance tunes. We did I Wanna Jump.
Yeah. River Valley Kids, dude, man.
River Valley Kids. I actually found out later that was you guys. And I was super involved with that. Loved it. Wow. And I'm like, man, this is like where I'm supposed to be. And I still feel like that with my church community. Like that's where I'm supposed to be. I love that community. I love those people. And it really just grew from there. I met Sam Dietrich, who was a huge influence in my life. And he's the youth pastor there who now also oversees weekend ministry. Also went to North Central with him. Yep. But anyway, so that was sort of where I was at, and I was called to that, and I started to go on like little mission trips with my church and really connect with some awesome older guys in that church. Yeah, and really I felt a heart for unity there because I could see that there was a dissonance between young and old, and that really I felt like I was called to be a mender of that. Yeah, because the difference between the youth and the weekend was pretty stark. Yep. And I wanted to be, and they gave me the opportunity to be a part of that. So I was on the weekend and I was on youth, and I got to be more and more involved to the point where I was just overseeing all the worship there. Wow! And it was awesome because our lead pastor Steve is amazing. He's just retiring after spending like 32 years there. Wow! And he also led worship.
Legend. No way,
dude. I'm talking like preach.
It's pretty rare that you'd hear 32 years at the same church, lead pastor. Yep.
He's he taught me so much about simplicity. Yeah. And just the walking out what you say you believe in a powerful way. Yeah. Keeping it simple. The gospel is you can't outgrow it. You don't graduate from it. Yeah. So anyways, that was a really special time. And it actually was really challenging when weird things started happening, opportunities started coming, and I had to go back to the framework and go about music outside of the church.
Yeah, totally.
And that was an interesting time because there's probably a year and a half, 2 years where I was 1 foot in that door, not really walking out, still sticking to my guns with my church job that I felt called to, that I was loving. Yeah. It was so great. It was comfortable enough, especially on like a financial level. Yep. You just felt like you're taken care of. You're not worried. If I want to get married, you feel like you have security. I can build a family off this. I mean, I could be a part of this, and there's room for growth. I was really excited about it. And then all of a sudden I meet this Old Testament prophet, crazy man, Elijah coming out of the woods.
You were telling me
stuff.
So he went to your church?
No, but he knew somebody from my church. His name is Jordan Erdman. Hey, Jordan, if you're listening. And this is a guy who at the time, 10 years ago, gave his life to the Lord. He's in his probably late 40s, early 50s. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And was an addict.
You view him as a like Old Testament prophet.
I literally view him as like a crazy man.
Yeah,
I literally view him as like, it's insane. Like eating locusts out in the fields, doing stuff for the Lord. You know, you're almost like, is this guy the real deal or is this guy like crazy?
Yeah.
You know, that's how passionate he is. So I brought that in with like sort of like keep it at arm's length. We were getting to know each other. He has a really nice studio.
Yeah.
And was inviting me to just like make music there. And he's like, I want to start a label. I want to like, so 10 years ago, he gave his life to the Lord. And because he was an addict and he was in rehab and his life was in complete shambles, lost everything.
Yeah.
He had been living in Florida and his girlfriend had left him.
Yeah.
And he's in treatment. And he literally at the door of the treatment center, his girlfriend showed up with a baby there. His baby. And like he had known a little bit about God before and had always felt like God had planted some seeds in his life with music and other things. And he always felt like he wanted to be in music and involved. He had an AV company. Yeah. He was just like a wheeling and dealing fast-paced dude. Yep. And this moment just like totally God humbled him. And like since then his life has just been completely different. Wow. And I've gotten to see that. I've gotten to test that and like notice that and approve that and be like, man, this is actually, you are who you say you are.
This guy's legit.
Yeah, I trust him and he is crazy. But, and then the next big piece of that was that he brought in an amazing producer, Mark Heimerman, Grammy Award winner, DC Talk, wrote Jesus Freak.
No.
Like, yes. Like Toby Mac and him are good buds. Like
how did this Old Testament prophet dude know him?
Because he's a wheeling and dealing fast-paced dude. And one of the first things I told him, I said, if we're going to do this, I need somebody, I'd like a producer, I think. But so if it was just me doing it, I would have just kept doing it on my own. And music has always been a part of what I want to do. Yeah. Like I think for me, I always have said like, even if I don't like making music, I'll always just like sit in my basement and write bad songs about my life. Yeah. Like, I just think that's fun. I love that. Yeah. Great hobby. I'll do it with my kids someday. Like I love that. But if I'm going to like, so I asked that, I can't really, I need like somebody to like really push me. Yeah. And at first he was thinking he can maybe do it. And I was like, I don't think that's going to work. Yeah. And he was like, okay. And so I didn't hear anything from him after I said that for like 2-3 weeks. I'm thinking he's probably just like, feelings, I'm like, he probably, And I get a call and he's got like an Italian mobster voice. Yeah. I'll never forget. I was in the car with Seth, our guitar player, and he calls me. I answer, hey, how's it going, Jordan? He goes, I got you a producer. That's all he says. That's what he opens up with. There's no hello. He just says, I got your producer. And I'm like, nice. Cool. Like, all right, what, like I'll come in and who are you talking about? He says, look him up. I look up Mark. I'm like, oh wow. Yeah, there he is standing on the Grammy stage, best rock gospel album with, DC Talk. Yeah, DC Talk. And Reggie White was the MC or whatever, the Packers guy. Okay, is that the right name? I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, Reggie White. Yeah, so they're like, I'm like, man, this guy's clearly like qualified. Yep. But I want to meet him. So I met him. First day we met, we share our testimonies. We are immediately jiving on life, ministry. Yep. And I sense a humility and I sense just an openness. Yeah. He's got nothing to prove. This is a guy not in the like competitive heyday of his career, but he literally willingly just moved up to Minnesota. Yep. Because he felt like God was actually calling him out of the Christian music industry.
No, this dude lives here.
This dude lives here now.
No.
Yep. About 3, 4, 5 years ago. And he brought his family up here because, again, his story is insane. So hearing his story made me go, okay, we actually have between Jordan, what Jordan pictures, because Jordan, one of the first things Jordan said to me, he's like, I want to write music. So this is how cool how God works. Yeah. God puts a vision on Jordan's heart about music that's not for the church that shows people God. Yep. I have little inklings of that growing up, and I'm like, man, that would be cool. But you know what? Worship seems like my thing. I'm going to keep doing that. Mark is killing it in the Christian music industry. Yeah. Feels God tear him away from it in a pretty intense way. Like he willingly left it, kind of the heyday of his career. Yeah. He could have been just killing it. He lived in Nashville. His family's all down in Nashville. Yeah. And he walked away because he felt like God was calling him away, and people were telling him he's crazy. He's like, I don't know why. I'm moving up to Minnesota, Minneapolis. When I toured with Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith, I always loved this town. I don't know why I'm going here. And then I'm sitting at a table with these 3 dudes, and we're all going, should we do this? Like, what the heck?
No.
So we sit down, and that day, I'm not even kidding you, what's hilarious is we ended up writing a little bit of music, and one of the songs that we wrote that day together, Mark and I, is a song called West Coast, which actually is our most popular song right now. Which all those things, I like almost feel reluctant just like saying that way because it sounds almost like this like cheesy, picturesque, but that's how God, when something lines up and he wants it to happen, it is crazy to be a part of.
Okay, my wife's favorite movie of all time is That Thing You Do. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I haven't seen it.
So it's about this band, the One Hit Wonders.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's based on a true story. One Hit Wonders, they write this song.
Yeah.
And this local guy that's living out of his RV shows up and he becomes their manager. So I'm picturing him as like this Jordan dude. And their song, like he gets them on the radio, like the local radio station or whatever, like, and that's as far as it goes. Like, all of a sudden he brings in Tom Hanks, who is this nationally known like producer guy. They get a record deal through him, and like it's like the moment where this RV dude passes the baton to Tom Hanks, and he's like, "You guys are bigger than me. Like, take it." And like,
no way.
I'm literally picturing your band in this journey as, the One Hit Wonders, man. Hopefully it's not a one hit deal.
No,
but like,
I feel that. It's
amazing.
That's very similar. But they still work together, and they have goals to try to continue to grow. They're calling it the Hover Coalition. Yeah. And again, they want to bring in artists that have a heart for God, but want to reach the masses, people who don't know. And it's cool because we've been getting opportunities to do that, which is, again, it's like uncomfortably cool. Like, for example, like we're getting opportunities to play things that like, I don't know, just like, this is, if we were called to just go play with a bunch of people, for a bunch of people that maybe don't know God or really aren't interested in the church. Yeah. We went and played at the DFL First Ave main room thing. Like we got asked to do that. We're like, of course we're going to go do that. Why would we not go do that? Yeah, of course. That's like who we are. Yeah. Is anybody, if it would have been the RNC, we would have done it. If it would have, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, we're not a political band. We're a band that's trying to be competitive. Yeah. Good at our craft. Yep. But if you read between the lines and if you look into it deeper as to who we are as people, you're going to see the love of Christ. Yeah. Wow. And that's something that, it's just one step at a time. If God keeps blessing it, we'll keep doing it. If he closes it down, I trust and I know there's something better for us, for me. But we are all in. We're leaving nothing for the next life. We're not taking any precautionary methods, which again is also kind of challenging because there's people that go, like parents and concerned, responsible adults, handle this? Which is totally, shout out to all the concerned, responsible adults out there. I don't think that's a bad role to play. And what's crazy is I heard a guy named Bo Burnham, a comedian. Yeah. They said, Bo, what advice do you have to all the aspiring comedians out there? Yeah. And it's kind of edgy. I would never say this, but he goes, tell them they should quit. And they're like, and then he explains it in a different interview because that interview just like ended that way. Yeah. It was kind of like edgy. Yeah, yeah. But he explained it as like, because if you're doing something and if you not doing it is just one person telling you to quit away, you really shouldn't do that. Like you're not called to do that. Yeah, yeah. But if you're gonna do that in the face of
somebody telling you to quit,
that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah,
like that's anybody who we admire or look at in a big platform has faced countless people.
You should stop this right now.
You should stop. Just don't even do it. Yeah, quit, man. Find the thing that you have to do, even if everybody says you shouldn't do it.
It's great.
Obviously, like I said, you have to put that. I mean, with the framework I'm living with, who God says I am, and really, it's not a rule thing. It's a health thing. Yeah, it's a life thing. I think that's an important distinction to make too for non-believers. It's like sinful people aren't bad. Yeah. Sinful people are just unhealthy. Yeah. And they're dying. We're all dying. I'm dying. Yeah. And anything.
To clarify, we're all bad.
We're all bad. Yeah. I'm a sinner, and so every time we allow God to, like, sort of like overlook what we're doing and like inform that. Yeah. We're literally making ourselves healthier and more whole and more. And the more we depend on that,
brilliant. Yeah.
And less on, but that's just the game. That's what we're doing every day. We try to take one step closer. But anyways, it's crazy.
Dude, I love it. And I'm hoping this thing goes as far as a band's ever gone,
Thanks, man.
And just grateful for your story, what God's brought you through, who you are. Yeah. I mean, the wisdom that comes out of you. How old are you? At this
24.
interview, 24 at this interview.
Yep.
I mean, the wisdom that's in you is insane, especially when you gave your life to Jesus at 17,
Thanks, man.
Or 18 or whatever it was. But like, just that's proof also of like how God can grow a person.
Yeah, that's right.
And how God can use a whole life of not living for him and flip it into the best education and how you can live the best for him. Like it's an amazing thing how he can redeem time.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm just grateful for you and your humility as well. And I'm hoping,
thanks, man.
like the success people talk about or dream about for band. Like I hope this happens. I hope it's the Super Bowl. I hope it's the Tonight Show. I hope it's because of who you are and who these guys that you're doing it with. It's amazing. Hopefully this podcast continues to grow and you'll be the first band to play on the podcast. We'll do it.
Yeah, I want that too.
We'll get a band on here and do a couple songs. That'd
Love
be amazing.
it. Sign us up.
We'll set it up. One thing I was going to ask you before, but I'm going to ask you now, I guess, is, and this is random and it's more self-centered.
I love it.
How did you and I interacted on social media?
I'm glad I was going there too.
How did you know who I was?
So
I don't know where we first met.
I went to a 20 plus.
Yes.
Where a gentleman named Kurt Graham was preaching. I think he was at the what's the theater downtown? It's not like, what is it called?
Pantages.
Pantages.
Yeah.
Is that the Pantages? You had much longer hair at the time.
Yes.
I don't even know if you had a kid at the time. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't.
Maybe. Just had a kid?
Did he?
Shout out to Tissel.
Tissel knows.
Tissel knows.
I love it. And it's funny. Do you mind if I pull my Instagram up?
You do whatever you want.
I found it. So you preached on, I think the name of your sermon was "It's Not About the Fire."
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You remember?
Yes.
So as I'm scrolling to find it, it rocked me. It was applicable. It was fresh. Didn't feel. Oh, my phone's on airplane mode, so we're not going to find it. It's fine.
Yeah. It's all good.
But essentially, at that time, I just was in ministry. And I just really admired you. I'm like fangirling on Kurt Graham from a distance.
Stop it.
And I actually posted an Instagram post like the next few weeks. I remember you had mentioned some days we have twig days.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know exactly.
And I was taking a run. I was going through a really kind of just a tough week. I was stressed out or something. And on my run, I just took a quick picture of I saw this like beautiful view.
Yep.
I took a picture of it, went back, finished my run, and I was like, I want to post this picture because it felt like I was just having a twig day. Like I could only bring one little thing today to the fire, and that's all I had.
Yeah.
Because I was just like burnt out, tired, sick of it. And I just had a little twig moment where God just blessed me with this little view. And I'm just
that's amazing.
That's a twig moment.
Tissel's got it up on his phone.
Yeah, you got it. There he found it. Look at it. Post that thing somewhere.
Yeah, he can
just having a twig day.
He'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you. Just bringing a little bit.
There you go.
To the fire. So that was also very informative.
Yo, I had no idea. My goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah, man. I'm a huge fan of what you do.
Yeah,
I am.
I'm a huge fan of what you do, and
thanks, man.
Hopefully we keep doing it in the next 40 years.
That's
and,
right.
See where God takes us.
Yeah, we'll look at each other and catch up.
Yeah, and we'll have a lot of twig days between now and then.
Yep.
But that's what it's all about: is learning to enjoy this life, the big days and the twig days.
Yeah.
So. It's amazing. Yo, thanks for being on
this
podcast.
This is fun.
And believing in what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And I just know that there's going to be people that are listening that are encouraged by your journey and where you guys are going and follow along like with your band and all that.
Awesome.
2 questions before we close. What's your favorite book of all time? You did mention your book of like your framework of how to hear from God.
I would have a hard time saying that because it's so like textbooky.
Yeah.
But I will say I like The Ragamuffin Gospel a lot by Brendan Manning.
Yeah.
It changed my life too. I really like that book. I still pull it out every once in a while.
The Ragamuffin Gospel. I've never read it.
You should check it out. Yeah, he's an interesting cat, Brendan Manning. I think he's dead now.
Yeah, great. And then the last question before we close is somebody following in your footsteps, one piece of advice that you'd give to them. And you can pick from any angle of life that you've lived, but just one piece of advice.
You can't fake humility, so don't try. And just remember who you are. And also, sometimes you have to find out who you are before you even remember. But I don't know, humility is a big deal.
Yep.
And I actually don't like when humility becomes like another like notch on the resume.
Yeah.
Keep it real.
Yeah.
So, because sometimes it's okay to be like, this is cool. Like, there's a difference in humility and like false attempts at branding yourself to somebody in a way that is dumb.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I got Eric Samuel Tim, a guy.
Yeah.
I always felt so uncomfortable when people would compliment me.
Yeah.
I would be like, no. Which, like, that's me trying to be falsely humble.
Yeah.
And he called me out. I'll never forget this. We're on like a little tour, and he goes, just say thank you, man.
Yeah.
Like, God's giving you something. Someone's acknowledging that.
Yeah.
Say thank you.
Yeah.
And, like, don't try to be, like, be confident in what God's given you and know what that means. You don't need to prove to somebody that you're so humble.
Yeah. And actually receiving a compliment is humble.
Yeah.
In itself. No,
it is. Yeah, absolutely.
When you're choosing to not be falsely humble, that in itself is humility.
Amen.
So it's great. Dude, love you, bro. You're amazing. Thanks for your story, your journey.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you on the Tonight Show soon.
Honored. Thanks, bro.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, we'd love for you to subscribe to this channel. We've got new episodes releasing every single week. We'd also love to hear your questions or comments. You can comment below. You can also find us on Instagram at Exception Podcast. And I want to give a quick shout out to our producer, Tissel. My name's Kirk Graham, and we'll see you back next week.